They robbed you of your homeland. They took away your hope. They robbed you of the right to dream of a future in the country of your birth. They murdered your citizens. They transformed your brain to think like a Cameroonian, to worship their flag, to sing their anthem, to pray, hope, and dream like a Cameroonian. They took away the land of your birth. They demonized you. They robbed you of hope, of a dream of a future that is better than the one you inherited.
They were all misguided. Do you know why I don't blame the people who funded this war abroad and the citizens back home? The reason is because every community will always have individuals like this that emerge as leaders, and they can misguide the public. Hitler did this to the German people, and they were not dumb, they were smart people, but yet they were misguided by a tyrant. And they are never wrong. They are always right. They are always seeking for justice. I ask a question. Those who say they want justice, have those you wronged in your life knowingly and unknowingly from your birth till now, have they gotten the justice they deserve? Everyone that you have wronged from your birth till now, knowingly or unknowingly, have they gotten the justice? That's a good place to start. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fascinating analysis. Today, we will be analyzing a mind-blowing video. It is going to give you perspective on the intentions that these leaders had from the inception of this Ambazonia movement. This video will help most of the English-speaking Cameroonians to understand how this entire initiative was masterminded, and it was right before you, but you didn't pay attention to it. This video is going to help stretch your thinking to understand what actually went on that led us to where we find ourselves today. This platform is designed for Cameroonians below the age of 40 who believe that we can achieve peace, unity, freedom, and prosperity in Cameroon without violence. If you are above the age of 40 and you believe in our initiative, we welcome you. If you are above the age of 40 and your strategy to resolving our differences in Cameroon is through violence, then this video and this platform is not for you. Let's dive straight into the video and take a look.
We need at least 100,000 of them so that this house, hello, we need 100,000 petitions signed so that this house may know how serious that we are about taking our country back. So if you have not passed that list round for people to sign, please do so and bring it back to us. Next on the line is somebody that you know really, really good. I really don't need to introduce him, but you know him, you've seen him, he believes in combat.
If you notice, this video was done approximately 5 years ago. The people were chanting when they said, oh, he believes in combat. That is Chris Ano introducing Cho Ayaba. Sako is right there in the corner as well. But I want you to take a close look as to what is going on in the scene. But most importantly, I want you to pay attention to the words that will come out of Che Ayaba's mouth. Right there. We didn't see this coming. Keep
Hello, Ambazonia! Blood by! Are you hearing? Blood by! Put your hands together and welcome Comrade Ayaba, please.
Block by block, rooftop by rooftop. Go down, man, go down. My fellow Ambazonia.
So the people did not know what they were signing up for. They were chanting and they were shouting. And I want you to listen to what he says, block by block. And everybody was chanting. Look at the crowd. That is the diaspora community gathered at a rally that was actually promoting the start of this conflict.
Sons and daughters of the Ambazonian revolution. It is not time to celebrate. It is not time.
It is not time to celebrate. This is war. Listen carefully.
To celebrate. They robbed you of your homeland. They took away your hope. They robbed you of the right to dream of a future in the country of your birth. They murdered your citizens. They transformed your brain to think like a Cameroonian, to worship their flag, to sing their anthem, to pray, hope, and dream like a Cameroonian. They took away the land of your birth. They demonized you. They robbed you of hope, of a dream of a future that is better than the one you inherited. They killed your parents, turned your fathers into boys, raped your mom, made your sisters to be ashamed, robbed them in more. They sent you into exile. You lost your neighborhood. They dispersed your friends. You became delinquent in a land that you did not understand. They took away something so essential to your own existence that you live here with your body, but your spirit hovers without knowing where to land. They took away from us.
Okay, all those rhetorics are victim enforcing rhetoric, right? To subjugate a target into believing that they've taken something very important from you, right? We have Nigerians in the diaspora. We have Kenyans in the diaspora. We have Ghanaians in the diaspora. We have Mexicans in the diaspora. there are many nations across the globe that have individuals traveling to other nations in search of greener pasture. This is something that is part of humanity. We always travel to another country. There are Chinese in America. There are Indians in America. We move around the world in search of greener pasture, in search of knowledge, in search of technology, something that works. There are many factors motivating individuals to move. So when people are saying you're out because you've traveled abroad, because of the government back home, and we are chanting this, like I said, if you don't want to reason, this platform is not for you. This is for thinkers. This is for those who are choosing to use their brain in this generation and not just go with the flow, just go with what everybody is going with. No, this is the time for you to step back and reflect and think for yourself. So keep listening.
Something so important that life became something we have rejected in this land. They took away from you a country that gave you hope, built the first democratic system where there was an electoral government change. They took away from you your economic system. They blockade your social system. They crumbled your economy so you could go into their own system to work for them. They made you drive through their own system so you could pay toll gate into their own system. They robbed you of your right to think, to hope, to have a future in the country of your birth. 243 years ago.
This is one thing that is interesting about this kind of language. Most of the individuals propagating these ideas, they never take responsibility for their own actions. They never outline any role that they played to the closure of those banks, those institutions that he mentions. The unitary system, they don't outline that. They look for key points that will enforce your victimhood status. They don't tell you about the teachers in West Cameroon advocating for equal pay with teachers in East Cameroon, and understanding that that is a contributing factor to the demolition of the federal system for a unitary system. They don't tell you that West Cameroonians borrowed money extensively. I mean, like they borrowed money. They used even dead people's names to borrow money from that bank. And that could be another contributing factor to the closure of their banks. They don't outline to you that there was poor management that led to the closure of some of those factories on the part of West Cameroonians. They don't outline that. I'm not saying government didn't play a role, but victims never take responsibility, and that is their first loophole. And when you hear someone presenting a problem or presenting a situation of this magnitude, and they are one-sided, I don't trust that. And that is why I'm rising up to bring a balance. This is a nation or a part of the country that I come from. But I'm standing up to first of all outline our faults, what role we played. With this, even an oppressor can listen to you. With this, even someone that doesn't agree with you, because I stand up and say, it's me. This is what I did. Even if it's 1% or 2%, this is the role that I play. You cannot resolve even a marital dispute by consistently blaming your partner for every mistake in that relationship. Take some responsibility. When people have an agenda, they are never responsible. Ask them a question. What role did your people play? How many percent? Is it just 2, just 1%? And if it's just 1%, How significant is that 1% to the exacerbation of that problem? Right? That's a good place to start. These people have their personal interests, their personal agenda, and they always manipulate the masses by stirring up your emotions with this rhetoric so that you can lose your life. Now today, you are being compelled to pay taxes. You are being compelled to keep funding the war. If you do not, your family back home will be kidnapped for ransom or your properties destroyed. This is a staggering reality that we have to face. The young people have been manipulated and they are on drugs. Some recruited as young as 14. Yes, they don't tell you that. As young as 14, and we have these details, as young as 14 to go fight this war. That is child abuse. They don't tell you this. And most of these young people are on drugs. Some of the individuals fighting are thieves, convicts that they've recruited for this mission. And that is why you see the kidnapping of ransom keeps going on. And for those who are advocating for a federal system, at this stage, taking into consideration what we have gone through, don't have a clue about what you're talking about. At the end of this conflict, you should understand that the English-speaking part of Cameroon will probably end up like Biafra. And this group of individuals will continue to terrorize the community for a very long time. And I have a solution to solve this problem as this conflict is coming to an end. Integration. We need B camps built in the Anglophone zone where we had most of the camps of the Amba fighters. That is the solution. We need more Francophones in the Anglophone zone, and we need more Anglophones going to the Francophone zone. Integration is a solution to that problem. If you think right now is a time for you to still have a federal system as a pathway to resolving this conflict, you don't understand what you're talking about. I say you don't have a clue, because these individuals, some of them thieves, will continue to exist in our society and our community will not be safe. And an Anglophone will not be able to point them out when they are terrorizing the community. And that is what has happened with Biafra, because these individuals still live in those communities and they are terrorizing that community. Biafra has existed for more than 50 years. This is the end result of a situation that we have created for ourselves. And we should be mindful of the long-term consequences, because we just like to say, yeah, they say you have been marginalized. Yeah, everyone likes someone that will tell them they are not wrong, that someone else is to be blamed for their problems. It might feel good in the now, but the long-term effect are disastrous. Keep listening. Watch this video to the end, because you understand what motivated these individuals, that maybe they are unconscious about their motivations, because there's a certain degree of that in this Ambazonian conflict. So let's keep watching.
The Americans told the British that their time of independence was now. They fought for 8 years, 4 months, and 15 days. They lost the Battle of Boston, but they won the war for the freedom of the United States.
They told you it was going to be a couple of months, right? Now, they cited America and said 8 years. America was fighting an external power. The distance between Britain and the United States was really vast. One thing that they don't get it is, now that they've realized that 7 to 8 years has come and they are failing, Anglophones, Cameroonians, many secessionist movements around the world have failed historically, including Biafra and many others in even developed nations. They don't tell you about that. because what they put before you is victory. We are going to win. We are going to succeed. No matter what, we are going to win. And it's a good perspective on life. But the reality is, it doesn't align with our situation. We voted, went into a union, right? Accepted a federal system, voted to dissolve that federal system and adopt a unitary system. And there are many factors, socio-economic and political factors, that led to the changes that we experience in Cameroon. And they are not conscious about this. Okay, so we will explore some of them, but I just want to let you know, they wanted to act like Americans.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The South Africans face a nuclear power. They face a nuclear power country. Mandela said he is going to die for his people. He struggled in jail for 27 years because he didn't want to bequeath to the next generation something worse than he had inherited. He fought like a valiant soldier. The Eritreans humbled the Ethiopians, a more powerful Ethiopia supported by Libya and Russia. They fought in trenches, in gutter holes, on rooftop.
The question to ask today is, what is the GDP of Eritrea? $2 billion US. The GDP of your country, Cameroon, is $45 billion US. That's the GDP. They don't put those facts and numbers and reason in that capacity. They don't. Victims, they always see themselves as just. They always understand how to categorize others, and they don't see themselves as having any flaw. And that's some of the problems with victims, right?
To be able to bequeath to the next generation something better. Your freedom is in your hands. It is going to be fought inch by inch, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, rooftop by rooftop.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There you go.
Your freedom is in your hands. It is not going to be given to you on a platter of gold. I can assure you here from Washington, the land of our
another thing to understand is that most ideologues, their end result is always ideas, not product, not something you can touch, because they are incompetent. They don't have what it takes to bring the kind of change that they are advocating for. And so they always mislead the masses. This is historically documented. They always have the skills of rhetoric, that is, they can speak and they can motivate you. But I want to let you know, guys, if you want to travel from Bamenda to Yaoundé, Guarantee Express will help you. But individuals like this won't. But Guarantee might not have the rhetoric to communicate like this. And so you perceive individuals like this provide more value to the society than someone like Guarantee. And this is why I'm advocating for economic development, because economic development, unity and economic development, because that is the pathway. But because most of the people that are actually bringing about change in our community don't talk like this. You think they are doing nothing. In Africa, you probably think Dangote is the least individual you should celebrate. But if you hear Professor Lumumba giving a speech, it moves you better than what Dangote has done through his companies in Africa. Let's keep listening.
The towns of Ambazonia will be liberated by the valiant soldiers who on a daily basis lay their lives, give their blood, deprive themselves of something more precious to make sure they can stand for our girls, for our children, for our mothers, for our fathers, to bequeath to the next generation a better country that they inherited. If this is the last thing you must give for your country, country. Stand here in Washington and think of the freedom you enjoy. Think of the millions of Ambazonians who have not gone to school. Those in jail. Think of Seseko. Think of Deacon Tasang. Think of Poundful. Think of Mancho BBC. Think of Mami Abi. Are you ready to lay your life for Ambazonia? I can assure you, Ambazonia.
My question to those chanting, if you were in that crowd chanting, what is your take today? We got to remember, what is your take on everything today? If you were in that crowd chanting, please be honest and humble enough to write a comment of what you think today.
We will build the most beautiful place on earth, a place that you would take pride in calling yourself a citizen, that will give to you a social system, an economic system, a political system you can be proud of. That is why we fight. We are ready to die for it, go to jail for it, so all of us as a people will be free.
Their idea is socialism. That is their motivation. I'm going to break that down for you so that you understand their end product. Because we hear the words, but I'm concerned about the end goal. What is your end product like? It's socialism. They have been motivated by Mao. If you know about Mao Zedong and what he did in China, they are motivated by individuals like Stalin. I keep repeating so that you understand their end product. They have been motivated by individuals like Hitler, right? And we are going to get to that soon so that you understand the root cause, their motivation, their predecessors, individuals who shared similar ideologies and the outcome of those ideas so that we can make progress as a nation and Africa as well. What we will start in Cameroon, Africa is going to watch. This is the time to raise thinkers, entrepreneurs, those who go on to bring about sustainable change. So let's keep listening.
Someday. God bless you all. God bless Ambazonia.
If you look carefully, that is Sako Ikome right there. Chris Ano introduced Che Ayaba, and then he made this revolutionary speech saying the war is on. And we were clapping, we were chanting, and we did not understand what we were getting into. Because most of them are learning. They've never fought a war, never led a war. This was an experiment. If someone will lose their life on an experiment, you should be mindful of what you're getting into. If somebody doesn't know what they are doing and someone could die. I'm saying right now because over 30,000 plus people have died with their experiment. And I'm saying this to say, if some of these old folks don't get their act together, it is going to be hard for you. Some of you will end up in exile. Somebody like Cho Ayaba, if he goes to ground zero to Cameroon right now, he will not be killed by the military. The Ambazonians fighters will take him down. And it's going to be the kind of death that he'll be chopped limb by limb, like one finger after another every day, till he sees his entire body crushed before his eyes. Ambazonian fighters will do that. I'm telling you. I talk with the boys on the ground. They will do that because they are beginning to understand the manipulation that they masterminded from inception. And most of the people hanging around there did not know the agenda that these individuals had. I don't blame them. I don't blame the boys on the ground as well. I see the architects, their vision, their motivations, their intentions. The people trusted them. The boys on the ground trusted them. Mark Barakta and the rest, they've said most of the Ambazonian fighters that have died on the ground is because of the infighting of the leaders in the diaspora. Their poor leadership, instigating violence, trying to promote a cause that they cannot manage and they are not skilled or competent, has led to the demise of most of our young people. Individuals like this flip things around at the end and always say the oppressor is to be blamed. We were just defending ourselves. Aren't you? Yeah, you were. You were defending yourself from the oppressor. They never take responsibility. Following them is a waste of time, and you're doing that at your own detriment and that of future generations.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is how important and how determined Community Ayaba is with the ADF forces and all the community which is behind him, and as well as those to be great our homeland, the Amba land.
Okay, so that was Che Ayaba. He went to Bamenda, and so the people were chanting, they were excited. Oh, he's right here, and all these vulnerable young men, some of them had a bright future. Some of them used to go about their trade. Some of them in the community trying to help, be contributing citizens of society. They were all misguided. Do you know why I don't blame the people who funded this war abroad and the citizens back home? The reason is because every community will always have individuals like this that emerge as leaders, and they can misguide the public. Hitler did this to the German people, and they were not dumb. They were smart people, but yet they were misguided by a tyrant. And they are never wrong. They are always right. They are always seeking for justice. I ask a question. Those who say they want justice, have those you wronged in your life knowingly and unknowingly from your birth till now, have they gotten the justice they deserve? Everyone that you have wronged from your birth till now, knowingly or unknowingly, have they gotten the justice? That's a good place to start. Make sure that you work hard to ensure that those individuals get the justice from what you did knowingly or unknowingly to them. That is a good place. Start with yourself. And then now you can start seeking for justice within your family, and then the community, and then the nation. Anyone that wants peace for our nation, and they start with stories of 1961, run away from them. Anglophones, Cameroonians, anyone, Africans, anyone that starts with history, past events, they have an agenda. Run away. They will mislead you and set you up, and you will find yourself in another problem very, very soon. Now, I want you to understand where these individuals got their motivation from. It is very important that you understand, because some of them will say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, I understand your motivation, because I'm not just looking at you speaking. I'm looking at your entire makeup as a human being, the black people, because in the early 1800 and 1900, Africans never had the consciousness of independence. Do you get it? And this is where you understand how we've evolved. There was no consciousness of independence. Even in slavery, slave trade, the First World War, Second World War, we never had that consciousness. There was nothing big going on the continent like independence. It never started there. The individual you have on your screen, that is Frederick Douglass. This man was born in 1818 and he passed away in 1895. This man fought so hard in America for the abolition of slavery and slave trade. He was a mixed race. That is, the father was white, the mom black. Frederick Douglass. Very smart individual. These are the people that started this entire movement of black liberation. Great man. I admire his bravery and his courage to stand in the face of an oppressor at that time. He played a very significant role for the liberation of black people in this country. And why am I bringing this up? Because most of the individuals in Africa, in Cameroon, have always been influenced by those in America or the West. That is a fact. We're going to break this down so that you can understand, the average man can understand what is going on here, because everything starts with education. So Frederick Douglass was the primary individual that started this whole initiative of black liberation, at least the most prominent. Let me put it that way. There might be other individuals, but this is one of the most prominent individuals that fought for the liberation of black people, the abolition of slavery and slave trade in America. Worked with Abraham Lincoln to make sure that there was equal opportunities for both black and white people. Right. From Frederick Douglass came W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and Marcus Garvey. They don't tell you about this, right? And it's important that you understand these individuals and the role that they played. So W.E.B. Du Bois was an ideologue, like the Cho Ayabas, like the Chris Ano, like the Sako, and most other prominent leaders that you've seen in Africa. He was an ideologue. Good speeches, good talk, but no action that can help the black people. Booker T. Washington was a pragmatic. That is, it was somebody that was practical. He wanted businesses for the black people. He wanted them to learn a trade. He wanted them to be industrious. He wanted them to be productive citizens of society. And letting the black people understand the only way you can gain equality with a white man is to be productive. And as you're productive, at least you have something to show for. And because of that, you can be in the room. You can rub shoulders with the white man because you are contributing. Your talent and your skills are seen. That is what he advocated for. And then we had Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is another fascinating individual from Jamaica. And he made himself the president of Africa without consulting the Africans, and said he was the president of Africa. He also went about with great ideas of black liberation. He was an ideologue. Great ideas, but they don't know about, they don't know how to go about executing that and help the people have true freedom, right? So the reason why I brought these three individuals so that you can understand where black people went wrong. Most of us followed W.E.B. Du Bois and followed Marcus Garvey. Somebody like Booker T. Washington was ignored. If the black people followed Booker T. Washington, this would have affected African leaders as well, and we would have probably been more industrious. Because remember, during slavery and slave trade, We shipped out most of the great ones among us. We destabilized our economy. Because of that experience, we didn't have merchants. We didn't have builders. We didn't have sculptors. We didn't have all of these great institutions that can help us thrive economically. And so coming out of a situation like colonialism, it was wise that we become industrious, but we did not follow that path. It was wise that we learned trade. That is why today you see your leaders travel abroad, come back with bad deals because they cannot negotiate. They are not industrious. They are not merchants. Most Africans, black people in America, followed individuals like W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. Now, if you look at that chart, if you look at those pictures, you realize that individuals or students like Kwame Nkrumah and Malcolm X in America, they followed the ideas of Marcus Garvey. And he was an ideologue and a separatist. He was a Pan-Africanist. That is who Marcus Garvey was. And he got into trouble trying to establish businesses because he was not skilled. Now, if you move on, you realize that individuals like Martin Luther King Jr. emerged. We will come back to Kwame Nkrumah, but you realize that individuals like Martin Luther King emerged and they were advocating for integration. That is, let the white and the black, in his famous iconic speech, I Have a Dream, he was advocating for integration, right? Black and white people living in a community where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That is what Martin Luther King advocated for. Malcolm X was a separatist. He believed that the black people should not integrate with the white people. And that was his idea. Nelson Mandela, on the other hand, he started on a similar track, but quickly got himself together, and he was advocating for equality and unity for fellow black South Africans. This is the difference. And that is why you see he's been celebrated as an icon globally today, because of the track that he took. Forgiveness, reconciliation, and say, regardless of the 27 years that I've been in prison, let's work together. Had white people on his cabinet and said, let's build South Africa. Cameroonians, I'm sharing this so that you have perspective of how we've evolved as a people. Now, fast forward, or let me take us one step back. You realize that we had Kwame Nkrumah, and then after that, we had individuals like Jomo Kenyatta, we had Patrice Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, and then we had maybe Jerry Rawlings, we had Muammar Gaddafi, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Thomas Sankara. The names go on and on. All of these iconic figures within Africa, they followed in the tracks of someone like Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah was like the big thing in Africa. He was like the president, right, of Africa. Something similar to what Marcus Garvey wanted. One thing I want you to pay attention to is that Kwame Nkrumah was an ideologue, right? He studied economics, social studies, and all of that. And he joined movements that were advocating for the kind of communistic ideas in the West, and then came back home in Ghana, got a job there, and then all of a sudden joined a political party and all of that. There was the Big Six, like he had other group of individuals that they were advocating for liberation. The Big Six comprised of two groups of people, Kwame Nkrumah on one hand and the other five individuals on the other hand. And the other individuals were saying, this independence thing, we should take it slow, right? It's a gradual process. We cannot just rush into independence. Let's work cooperatively with the white folks, and then slowly we will understand what we are doing, and then we'll be able to make progress. No, Kwame Nkrumah said, no, it's right now. And if we get rid of all of these white people, we will become prosperous very fast. And most of the people said, yes, yes, yes. Just like you see Ayaba when they started, everyone said, yes, yes, yes. And so Kwame Nkrumah championed the movement of African liberation, independence. That is why Ghana is one of the first nations that got their independence in Africa. They were rich in cocoa, coffee, and gold, timber. Ghana was the hub. It was the place. A lot was going on there. Why I bring this up is to say no one in Africa had the strength or pushed hard enough to challenge the ideologies of someone like Kwame Nkrumah, to understand who he was looking up to. This communistic, socialistic ideas that he was pushing throughout the continent, we did not question this. Individuals like Cho Ayaba, they are all proteges of the same ideologies. You might look at it and say it's different. It's not different. Same thing. Same thing. And they might think they are doing something new. It's nothing new. We've seen this before. This has happened before. Okay? And Kwame Nkrumah had a lot of struggles even in his journey as a political advocate. Almost became a tyrant in his own nation. Was overthrown. They don't tell you about that, right? Let's just look for maybe the ideas that he was advocating for, and then we continue on that tracks. Where are we going to end up? In the same situation. He became like a dictator to his own people. They don't tell you this. Guys, capitalism, free market works. If you want to stay in this loop where ideologues live, continue on these tracks, right? Because now we have a new movement, right? We have individuals like Professor Patrice Lumumba and Julius in South Africa. These are all agitators. I call them agitators. Why? Because they are walking in the same tracks. They are stirring up your emotions with stories of slavery and slave trade. They will set you up into another loop that will take us centuries to come out of. Anyone that wants true liberation, if they start with historical events to stir up your emotions, they are of no good to you and they will mislead you big time. I guarantee you. 20, 30 years from now, follow that tracks and I'll ask you, how is it working for you? How has it worked? Kwame Nkrumah said there will be a unified, borderless Africa in his time. It did not happen, right? He said he's going to see it, and he was probably pushing to become the president of Africa. And they say things like Africa was one united nation. We are going to get to that, but guys, one thing that you find in common with most of these individuals, because just like how they study other people, they think nobody studies them, right? They are the ones that are invincible and they are looking at everybody and all of that. That's what they really think. So most of them are anti-West. You see, we can categorize their motivations and maybe who they are against to understand their motivations and their intentions. They are anti-West. They are pro-Palestine. That's something they have in common. They are Pan-Africanist. They are pro-Russia and they are pro-China. You can see their ideas. But everything China has today, China copied from the West. Most of the individuals advocating for this, most of them travel not to China, but to the same West, and they try to always fight the West. It's ludicrous because most of them, you ask them, what are the top 3 countries you want to travel to? They will say USA, they will say Canada, and they will say France, or they will say they'll travel to some of the like I'm told Norway and all the other nations they travel to. And I'm saying none of them want to travel to the communistic nations that they are trying to create in Africa. None of them want to travel to the socialistic nations that they are trying to create in Africa. You see the loop? And that is it. Even Kwame Nkrumah never studied in China or the communistic nations where he's trying to draw maybe his inspiration from, right? Most of them live in the West, live among those communities, maybe get angry, get pissed off because of 1 or 2 incidents, and then they generalize it, pick up a concept that they have no clue about, and they try to push on the poor masses. And it always the same story. It always ends up in the same place. Millions of people dying, thousands of people dying, more corruption, incompetent leaders. The same thing, the cycle continue for Africans. right? It always starts with one man who studied so hard or educated themselves, and then the next thing is they're gonna pick up one social problem, stir up your emotions, lead you to fighting, hate, and resentment, and all of a sudden they become tyrants if they succeed, and then they keep you in that same loop, and then they probably die or get overthrown or kicked out through a coup d'etat. It's the same story. It always happens that way. Does that make sense? And one thing you find in common is they are not competent to lead. The ideas that they have don't work, first. Secondly, they are not competent to initiate what they are advocating for, and they always mislead the people, and their end product is an idea and not a substantial product, something you can touch and feel or see a transformation that you can quantify, and thousands and millions of people always die. Now, I want you to watch another interesting video, and then I'm going to come back and then we'll wrap this up, right?
But Africa sometimes judges ourselves very harshly and with a jaundiced sense of history. The post-colonial African state, the oldest post-colonial African state is Ghana, 66 years only. Nigeria, 63 years only. And we often forget these very important and immortal words of John Henry Clark when he said that all African countries, upon regaining independence, started to conduct their affairs on the basis of systems of governments that were borrowed from Europe, and that none of them will ever succeed on the basis of borrowed systems.
Okay, right there, that is a faulty premise. But you just listen to that and it sounds so good and people will be chanting. What do you mean by Africa will not succeed on the basis of borrowed systems? Did China not get to 17 trillion US dollars today on the basis of borrowed systems? Africans, you just listen to this. And I just want to say this. China did not get where it is today because of a continental free trade area in Asia. China got to where it is today as an independent nation in Asia. There's anyone that wants Africa to unite and have a continental free trade area and think that is a path to success, they are wasting your time and they will lead you nowhere. And they have no clue about what they're talking about. They have been motivated by still this socialistic, communistic ideologies that produces an idea. And not a product. South Africa became what it is today because of a continental free trade area. You think so? Okay. So let's keep listening.
And SMO spoke. And if the SMO were to speak a little longer, he would have reminded you of what Chinua Achebe said in Things Fall Apart, that they came and put the things that held us together, and we can no longer reason as one. And he said, we may have sent the white man away, but what about our brothers whose minds they have infected and infested?
Right there, I want to say Africa was never united. I don't know where we get these ideas from. There was the Songhai Empire, there was the Ghana Empire, there were different kingdoms. The way we speak today, my country, Cameroon, has approximately 250 languages. We have never been that united as you may perceive it to be. We've not. And that is why we were easy, we're an easy target to be penetrated because we were not united. And the kind of unity you're talking about today never existed. So you see this, and these are intellectuals with PhDs, well-learned men. And when they speak, you will listen and it stirs up your emotions and you feel like what they are saying is facts. It's not facts. In your country today, is there one tribal language you all speak? No. Do you think people are united by a common language? Yes. You get it?
And there is no shortage of them. So Africa can and will arise. And if you look at the continent of Africa, she has always been conscious of the need to do right things. And if you look at the continent since 1963, and I can remember this so very vividly, I can remember Kwame Nkrumah in 1957 on the 6th of March saying, the freedom of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not free.
You see the words that they use to lure you in, and you feel like they want the interests of everybody, but they are power hungry. Kwame Nkrumah wanted to be the president of Africa. He wanted his ideology to spread across the entire continent, just like Gaddafi wanted his own ideas to spread around the continent. This is the generation where every nation needs to take responsibility of their country and build your country. You can have a free trade area with a country that you share similar values and you do business with. The unity of Africa is a great idea, but not at this stage. Not at this stage of our development. We need to work hard independently, cooperate with those who share our values and our principles, and then gradually people will start realizing this country came together and this is what they are doing, and it's amazing. And maybe we can change our values and our philosophy. Guys, we left from tribes to colonialism and where we find ourselves today. We never went through the formation of states. And so that aspect of our nations is missing, right? That is facts. We left from the colonial systems to a socialistic system propagated by these individuals. This man is an agitator. His job is to agitate, stir up your emotions so that you can become bitter towards the West. But at the end of the day, most of the ideas you still learn and come back home, you adopt them from the West, not from the socialistic nations that they derive their ideas from. China is one of the biggest communistic nations, and they still learned most of the things they do from America. You see what I'm saying, guys? No, let's just think for real. Like you, if you want to travel, where do you want to go to? You probably mention America. And then why don't you want to copy what America has done and apply in your own nation and get the same results back home? Why will you turn to your people and then you want to talk about socialism? It doesn't make sense to me. The phone, the YouTube, the Facebook you're posting the video on all came from America. How can you be benefiting from this kind of system and then you turn around to criticize it? It doesn't make sense. You cannot bite the finger that feeds you. And you want to use historical events as a premise to validate your position. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. We gotta be pragmatic in this life today if we want to succeed, if we want to secure a good life for ourselves, our children, and future generation. We gotta be pragmatic. We gotta be real with what works. No more theories and illusions and ideologues in our communities. No. All this Africa, see guys, when we go big with everything, we never achieve anything. When you say Africa, you will end up doing nothing. You repeat the same cycle and your generation will continue to suffer. Start where you are. Start with your nation, start with your community. That is a good place to start. Let's start with your own life. Start with the problems that you're dealing with. That is a good place to start. We want to look at what is happening in the nation or maybe in the continent. Africa is a continent. And when we do this tomorrow, we say, oh, Africa is a continent and not a country. You guys speak as though Africa is a country. And when Western nations wants to address Africa as a country, you start getting mad and said, no, it is a continent. Yes, we know it's a continent. So speak about it as though it's a continent. Talk about your own country. Talk about the problems that are going on in your country and solve those problems. And maybe through it doing that, the rest of Africa will see what you're doing and be able to emulate that. Kwame Nkrumah had not even solved all the problems in Ghana, and he wanted to solve the problems in Africa. And this is the problem. This is the problem. You get it? And we listen to individuals like this, clap, and we will suffer tomorrow. We will struggle tomorrow. We'll get ourselves in more trouble tomorrow. And then we will look for someone else to blame. The cycle continues. This is a liberating message. And as you hear this, you begin to understand. And they always act like they have your best interest at heart. They are the most selfish individuals that you can think of in the face of the earth. I guarantee you. I'm telling you, I've seen it again and again. We've read it. We've understood this. History is true.
Say the same thing in 1958. He repeats the same thing in 1960 in Casablanca, Morocco. He repeats it again on 25th of May, 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he does not debilitate ourselves by constantly bashing ourselves and looking at Africa from jaundiced eyes from Europe and America. And I'm suggesting to you,
you see, one of the things about ideologues like this is the first thing, relieve the people from guilt. Relieve the people from responsibility. Let them know that they are not responsible for their problems. Their strategy is well documented. As they go about trying to size up people, they think no one else is sizing them up or no one else is understanding their strategy. The first thing is relieve the people from guilt. But do you know what I say to you? Take 100% responsibility of your life, your country, and your nation. 100% responsibility. They will never ever say these things to you. When you take responsibility, you take power back. When you say I'm responsible, you automatically you see yourself in control. But when you say it's someone else, you are at the mercy of that person to save you someday or let go of you. That is what these people want to put Africa and put you in, this loop of irresponsibility. And I want to let you know, take responsibility. Say, I'm responsible. That's a good place to start. I'm responsible for the relationship that I'm in. I'm responsible for my marriage. I'm responsible for my family. I'm responsible for my community. I'm responsible for my family. I'm responsible for my nation. That when you say that, all of a sudden power comes up. And that is how I look at Cameroon. And I'm like, I'm responsible for this nation. Imagine what will happen if every Cameroonian rise up and say, I'm responsible. I am. And responsibility doesn't necessarily mean you are the perpetrator or you are the one who caused the problem. Responsibility means I am responsible to fix it. I'm responsible to set clear goals that will help me fix the nation. That is responsibility. Do you get it? Yeah, just like slavery and slave trade and colonialism. And I look at those circumstances and stories and events, and I said, I'm responsible. I'm not responsible for causing colonialism or slavery and slave trade. I'm responsible to contribute to make Africa better, to make Cameroon better, to make my nation and my community better. That is something we can all do. I'm responsible. How about that? That is why marriages fall. That is why we get into trouble. That is why there's continuous conflict around the world. Why? Because people don't want to take responsibility. And that is why you see most people are poor and few are rich. And the few that are rich, you ask yourself the question, why? It's because they got to a place where they said, I am responsible. It gave them power to be in charge because they said they were responsible. If you want to succeed in life, turn around, look at what most people are doing and go the opposite direction. You'll find breakthrough. The masses, most of the times, are always wrong. And they'll always mislead you and follow the wrong direction. God sent Moses to his people. Moses sent 12 spies into a land to go spy, come back and give us a report. The 12 spies came back. 10 were defeated mentally, and they spread a bad report. And the people, the herd, followed them. 10 indicates majority, and majority is right. And majority of the people followed the majority. What happened? They all perished in the wilderness. This cycle repeats itself. It is true back then, and it is true today. Do you guys understand? This is liberating. Always look at where majority is going and take the opposite direction. That is a very powerful strategy for making the right decision.
we have and will continue to make our mistakes, and said that we were going to silence the guns in 2013. We did not. And we sat down in 2020 and said we were going to silence them. And now the guns are alive and well.
Manufacturers bringing industry and
one thing you realize is that most of these individuals don't put the facts. They don't deal with facts, right? They always deal with illusion. They always deal with theories, and they don't deal with facts. And this is what I want you to pay attention to right now. If you look closely, approximately 75% of the African Union's financing comes from external partners, including Europe, including European unions, European countries, and other nations outside of Africa. 75%. You have all this energy and all this thinking, and yet the biggest organization representing the continent, 75% of its financing doesn't come from Africans. Guys, this is time for us to work hard. This talk will take us nowhere. Like I said from inception, we decided to follow people like W.E.B. Du Bois. We decided to follow people like Marcus Garvey. These were all ideologues. We decided to follow people like Kwame Nkrumah. They are all ideologues, and they produce no substantial result. This talk is only producing 25% of our contribution to a union, African Union, that represents the continent, and this is how much comes from us Africans. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's not like we can't work hard. It's because we choose our leaders. And this is what they are producing in our lives. And you might argue this, you might debate this. Keep doing you. And the next 20, 30, 40 years, I'll ask you the same question. How did it work out for you? How did it work out for you? I'll ask you that question. This is facts. You cannot play with this. 75% is funded by nations outside of Africa, organizations outside of Africa, not Africans themselves. Ideologues. They are everywhere in our communities, and they've gone read some history books, and they have good facts and stories of past events to stir up your emotion and keep you in that loop. So one thing that I want you to understand is the African Union idea was primarily championed by Muammar Gaddafi, right? Yeah, so he was instrumental in advocating for a more united and integrated Africa, right? So, but if you look at somebody like Muammar Gaddafi, wanting one currency, they've had these stories for years. Guys, what happened? He was challenging the West. They are always antagonistic. And I tell you, this is the reality. Look at your Facebook, your phone, your car, your house, everything. Man, the West they've helped. They've contributed massively. If you want to use slavery and slave trade as your foundation, good luck with that. But they've contributed massively to help Africa. And challenging the West is not a wise decision for any African country. For Cameroon. That's why I say challenging your government, you think it's people are just rebellious, and they will use the word speaking truth to power. But it's a strategy to be rebellious, cause trouble, put your people in pain. And this is what we have seen in Cameroon. People taking past historical events to stir up people's emotion and mislead them. Now, Cameroonians never forget this. Never. What I'm about to say, never forget this. The nations that have helped you, Anglophones, in this crisis, number one is the United States, financially. Number two is the European Union. And number three is the United Nations. And the United Nations is primarily funded by the United States. They have a majority of the funds in that union, or they support more than most nations. So the United States, the European Union, and the United Nations. None of these socialistic nations that they want you to look like have supported you in times of trouble. Underscore that. Take that into consideration. Tomorrow, you will forget the finger that fed you. You will bite that finger that fed you. You will join a group of people and be misguided tomorrow, and you forget where your help comes from. Never forget to remember. When I was in trouble, who came to my aid? None of the nations, the China, the Russia, they haven't helped you. These are facts. And tomorrow, when you tell me, oh, the West is a problem, and I'll look at you, I'll say, go, when you were in trouble, the people that you're looking at, did they help you? Right? Now, I want us to fast track a little bit. So this is Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping is the father of the modern economy in China, right? When you talk about the prosperity that China has experienced for the past 34 years, this is the man who looked at the situation that China was in and said, I will keep my ego on the ground. I'm not going to join this train of people and blame America or blame the West. I will learn from them. And he is the one who coined out the phrase, it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it can catch a mice. And he decided to integrate his nation, learn from America, have his people come over and get trained, and went back and developed the modern China that you see today. Never forget to remember. Never forget to remember the nation that helped you when you needed help desperately. This man kept aside his ego. And I think we have a lot of ego that we need to set aside, even in Cameroon, and face the bitter truth. The strategy of speaking truth to power is not working for you. Have you ever said the truth to power and it changed the circumstance of your life? I don't think so. You got to evaluate what you're doing at some point and ask, is it working for me? If not, can I change? Can I pivot? Can I change my strategies? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about talking truth to power. The reason why you do so is because you want a result. You want change. And if that strategy is not working for you to get change, can you change that strategy? Right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result or expecting a different result. Insanity, you do it again and again and you expect a different result. No, you get the same result every time. And there's a saying that the illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. There will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Those are the illiterates in this dispensation. Those who are stuck with old ideas that they cannot unlearn and relearn. Those are the problems in our community. Intellectuals that have crammed a lot of facts, have sophisticated rhetoric, and they will regurgitate them again and again and again and expecting a different outcome. You get the same outcome every time. You can't plant corn and get beans. You always get corn every time. It's that simple to understand. Life is not designed to be hard. Human beings make life hard. I do it and I know it's not working and I want to keep doing it with the hope that I will get a different result. And this is the reality we find ourselves in, right? So this man changed everything. He was not an ideologue. He was a pragmatic. It's like, I want what works. My people are starving. China is what it is today, all thanks to this man. One man with a great idea, and the people united. I have to also give credit to the people because they listened. They cooperated. Because it's not just about the leader, it's about the people as well and their cooperation to make that dream become a reality. Just like what I'm advocating right now for Cameroon. If we cooperate, we will get somewhere very fast. If we do not, we will follow the examples of other struggling nations, and that will be our story 20, 30, 40 years from now. But I know Cameroonians are smart, and so we will follow what works. There's no time for argument. When you're following what works, you don't argue that much because we are looking at what works and we model it. We model it. Specialized modeling. That is the strategy that I'm implementing for us to get where we are going fast. So right there, you realize that the first step was ideological control under Mao, right? He had to control people's ideologies, but He wanted economic independence. He wanted political security, cultural revolution, and all of that did not work. Didn't produce any results, and people suffered under Mao. But if you look at somebody like Deng Xiaoping, economic reforms, that was his first step. The other guy, ideological reforms. See the difference? This man started with economic reforms. And this is what I'm advocating for in Cameroon. We start with economic reforms. People want to start with political and historical reforms. They will take you nowhere with those myopic ideological concepts. They will take you nowhere. We start with economic reforms. Deng Xiaoping started with economic reforms. Mao started with ideological reforms. You see the difference? Look at the GDP of China. See the progress China has made. It is easy. That's how life is so easy, right? But it has to take a professional to make it easy for you to see it the way I'm presenting. It's so easy and it's understandable. It's applicable. It works. It works. The next thing was decollectivization. That was Mao's strategy, right? He dismantled the commune systems in rural areas, allowing farmers to own land and sell surplus produce in the market. This is free trade. Capitalism in China. Like, you produce your own stuff and then you come sell it and let's make progress. We don't just want to control everything. We want you guys to be independent, because when you give people the responsibility, they do better than you claiming to be an expert to run everything. You are this socialistic figure that has it figured out. No, empower the people. They will figure out their way. If they are following a particular trend, a particular direction, they will figure out their way, set the standard, and show them how to do it. They will be creative. That is what I'm advocating for. Power to the people. Empower the people. It's all about empowering the people. The people, guys. It's not about you. It's about the people. It's not about your ego. It's not about your position. It's not about power. It's about the people. Always prioritize the people. And that is what most Ambazonians or Cameroonians or Anglophones don't see in the leaders. That is all about them. The people. Then the next step was modernization. He focused on the 4 modernizations, right? Agriculture, that was the industries at the time. Agriculture, industry, defense, and science and technology. He had a focus. And in Cameroon, we are choosing the 7 industries that are transforming the global economy. Do you guys see that? This is how you go in depth in your study, break down principles, find what works, align them, structure them, have a compelling vision, and be able to present that so that it is easy for everyone in the nation to understand what they are doing and follow a track that works. So guys, I hope this message inspires you. I hope it gives you hope. I hope it helps you have perspective as to where we are going with our nation and why you should stop following ideologues, because their end product is always an idea and never a product. So this is how Deng Xiaoping changed China. The modern China, the modern economy that you see in China today. Follow what works. Life was not designed to be hard. It is easy. Human beings make it hard. Terrible leaders that emerge among us make it hard. And now I'm putting a call to action to every Cameroonian, both home and abroad. My number is right there on the screen. Reach out. Right here, we are operating an organization called CSDP, Cameroon Sustainable Development Project. The vision of this organization is to train 3,000 Cameroonians in the 7 industries that are transforming the global economy. And with this, these individuals, after acquiring the training, will go out there to create businesses that will employ fellow Cameroonians. And by doing so, we project that we can move our GDP from 45 billion US dollars right now to approximately 1 trillion US dollars in the next 20 years. That is the plan. Your contribution matters. Our educational arm is Nation Builders University. And right here, we are educating young Cameroonians to have the mindset for success, modeling developed nations America to be specific. That is our strategy for success. And you might ask yourself the question, it might not work for Cameroon. No, it will work for Cameroon. China started at a time where there was no Facebook. Technology was not where we see it today. And yet China has made significant progress over 34 years. And they've moved their GDP from approximately 390 billion US dollars in 1990 to 17 trillion US dollars today. Today, this is significant progress. Cameroon speaks English and French. China only speaks Mandarin. They had to translate most of the things they got from America to their language so that their people can understand. We do not have to do that because we understand English. That makes the job easy. Secondly, the reason why we will succeed is because the technology today works. So it's faster for us to learn, have meetings, be productive, and get the results we want. Does this make sense? If China, that doesn't speak English, over 30 years or 30 plus years, have been able to accumulate wealth, and their GDP is approximately 17 trillion. Cameroon, we speak English. Won't we be able to have at least 1 trillion? One? In the next 20 years, if we focus, if we use this model, specialized modeling, won't we be able to make 1 trillion? I think it's achievable. The only reason why nations like ours struggle is because we are slow to take action. Slow. We hear a good idea and we contemplate, or we take the idea and we try to change it or manipulate it and don't do exactly what we see. That is the only hindrance. If we can get this out of the way, let's model what works. In the next 20 years, we'll have a vibrant and thriving economy in Cameroon. That is the ballpark of the vision. I encourage you to support financially. I encourage you to support with your talents and your skills. It is needed. Your financial support will go a long way to help the young people right here at Nation Builders University to have at least access to internet, some resources like a computer so that they can connect and study. You will like that nation and you want to come back there someday as we work hard to build it. It is us, the people. For 7 to 8 years, we've financed a war with zero government support, which is proof that we can put our money together and build. Your support will go a long way to help these young people educate themselves, start thinking right, not be delinquent and terrorizing the community, but be contributing citizens of society. That is the difference. Anglophones and Francophones are coming together for economic prosperity. That is what we are focused on. Economy. We are not here for politics and history and all of that. We are here for economic prosperity for every Cameroonian, regardless of the language you speak, regardless of your socio-economic background. We are here to push for economic prosperity for every Cameroonian. My number is right there on the screen. There will be a link in the description. Feel free to click that link and make your donation or reach out and participate. We'll be happy we did this together with one voice 20 years from now. Remain blessed and have a wonderful rest of your day. All right. If you like this video, you're going to like this other episode and you can watch it by clicking right here.